Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Douglas disappointment, Steffy's joy, Thomas advertisement. The Bold and the Beautiful recap for Thursday, March 28th indicate that Ridge Forrester tells Steffy Forrester he doesn't like her going after Brooke Logan. Thomas Forrester comes by and tells Ridge and Steffy that he ended it with Hope Logan. Brooke finds Hope, who tells her it's over between her and Thomas. Douglas Forrester wants to go with his dad. Hope tells Brooke that she loves Thomas. Hope says occasionally that isn't enough if it isn't meant to be. Brooke thought Thomas was more devoted to Hope. Hope aloud. Thomas would always be there, but now he has abandoned her. Hope wished she could say yes, but she wasn't ready for marriage again. Hope says Thomas wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Steffy. Steffy poisoned Thomas against her. Brooke doesn't differ with Hope. Steffy is doing everything she can to undermine her. Brooke says Douglas Forrester isn't going to take this well. Hope wants to talk to Douglas alone. Douglas knows what happened. Thomas wasn't the only bone. Who got his expedients up? Douglas wants to know why Hope doesn't want to marry his pater. Hope tells Douglas that she wasn't ready for that. Hope says she can be ready in the future. Douglas wants to know why they aren't good enough for her to marry Thomas. Hope says she'll always be Douglas' mama. Douglas tells Hope that Caroline Spencer was his mama. Hope tells Douglas they will work through this together. Hope will always be a part of Douglas' life. Douglas wants to go with Thomas. Hope says it is and that Douglas wants to leave city with his pater. Douglas says Thomas is his idol. Douglas doesn't want to go through court again. Thomas needs Douglas and Douglas needs him. Douglas's leverages Hope and tells her he'll be sure Douglas leaves, and Hope throws that ring and riots. Hope begins to cry and leverages herself. Brooke tells Steffy that she should have allowed. About Douglas. Douglas says he told Hope how disappointed he is. Thomas is going down for a while, but doesn't know how long. Douglas tells Brooke that he told Hope he wants to go with Thomas. Thomas says he'll let them know when they get settled. Brooke can only imagine how Hope feels about this. Hope thinks about what Douglas has told her. Steffy says she just walked Thomas and Douglas out. Hope tells Steffy she isn't in the mood. Steffy says Hope is officially out of Douglas and Thomas' lives. Thomas says this was a necessary step. Brooke tells Thomas that Douglas is there. Thomas doesn't understand why Brooke has done a 180. Brooke says this isn't what she wanted at all. Brooke advised Thomas that this might be. Steffy starts attacking Hope and Thomas puts a stop to it. Thomas wanted a life with Hope, but she didn't want that. Thomas says this is what Brooke wanted in the end. Brooke didn't want this. Brooke tells Steffy this wouldn't have happened if not for her. Hope blindsided, Brooke and Steffy argue. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers for Wednesday, March 27th indicate that Thomas Forrester has made a decision about his future that may leave Hope Logan blindsided. Brooke Logan and Steffy Forrester will argue over Hope and Thomas. Hope may claim that she loves Thomas, but she formerly again turned down his offer as well. Thomas allowed. That he and Hope were on the same runner, but obviously, Hope doesn't want to marry him, or she'd have said yes, this time. All Thomas wants is commitment. It isn't like he wants to rush into a marriage right away. Thomas tried to ignore Steffy when she started pushing her docket, but ultimately he fell right into her way of thinking. Now Thomas is set to make a dramatic change, and he has no idea that Hope will suppose of his new plans for himself and Douglas Forrester. Is Thomas about to leave city with him? No doubt, Hope is going to supplicate and maintain with Toms to stay in city and work this out. After all, Thomas and Hope also work well together. Hope has seen how well Hope for the future does without Thomas, and it isn't good. Thomas just can't pack up and leave. If Thomas leaves city, he'll be leaving Hope for the future too. Hope wants another chance to fix effects with Thomas, but it seems that his is the last straw. Has Steffy eventually turned Thomas against Hope like she has wanted to do years? Thomas and Hope have made a great design platoon, but this could very well be the end of Hope for the future without Tom's there to bring Hope's fancies to life. Brooke Logan and Steffy Forrester argue. Hope and Brooke would have been on the same set of this argument at one time. After all, the Forresters and the Logans have always been at each other's throats. Generally, it was over Taylor Hayes, and it was all-out war. Will the same thing be with Hope and Thomas now that Steffy has put herself in the middle? Brooke has been trying to see a different side of Thomas thanks to Hope and Ridge Forrester. Still, Brooke understood why Hope wasn't ready to jump out of one marriage and right into another. Will Steffy and Brooke's fight come between Brooke and Ridge? Who all will be affected by this falling out? Hope riots and adventures ring. Douglas leaves with Thomas. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers recap for Thursday, March 28, reveals that Brooke Logan set up Hope Logan crying and got the news that Thomas Forrester just ended affects with her. Hope said this wouldn't be passing if it weren't for Steffy, and allowed. Steffy Forrester's defensive family reason was bull. After Hope mentioned that Thomas wanted to leave city with Douglas Forrester, Douglas walked through the door since his pater arranged for him to come to Forrester Creations. Hope said there was commodity they demanded to talk to him about, but Douglas formerly knew she turned down Thomas' offer again. Douglas admitted he was disappointed too and wondered why Hope made it feel like they could be a real family. Hope felt they formerly were one and tried to explain that marriage was a big commitment. Douglas knew Hope loved him and that she kinda loved Thomas, but he plotted to understand why they weren't good enough for her. After Hope said she'd always be Douglas' mama, Douglas said his mama failed and that Caroline Spencer was the bone who gave birth to him. Douglas felt Thomas was good enough for Caroline and talked about how disappointed his pater was. Although Thomas demanded some time and space, Hope said she'd always be part of Douglas' life. Douglas made it clear that wouldn't be the case right now and explained that he wanted to go with Thomas. Still, Douglas wanted to go too since his pater was his idol if Thomas was leaving Los Angeles. Douglas asked Hope not to make him go through court stuff again since Thomas demanded him. Once Douglas told Hope farewell and headed for the door, Hope told him to stay and called out that she loved him. Douglas ran into Hope's arms and expressed his love as well, but he still left in the end. Hope was devastated once she was alone, so she threw Thomas' ring in frustration and let out a laugh before crying indeed harder. In the CEO office, Thomas gave Steffy and Ridge Forrester updates on the fact that he just ended affects with Hope. When Brooke came by and wondered if Thomas was sure this was necessary, he indicted her of wanting this for times. Brooke claimed she didn't want both Hope and Thomas in anguish like this, especially when there were children involved. Steffy acted like it was time for Hope to face consequences and stood up to Brooke formerly more. When Douglas walked in, he explained that he told Hope he wanted to go with Thomas. After Thomas told Steffy, Ridge and Brooke that he was going down for a while, he said he was headed to Paris and that Douglas was coming with him. Brooke expostulated since Hope was Douglas' mama, but Douglas said he told Hope that he demanded to go with his pater. Once Ridge and Steffy said their farewells, Thomas thanked Steffy for everything. Steffy said she walked Thomas and Douglas out, so they all headed out together. Brooke was distraught over this unforeseen turn of events and told Ridge that she could only imagine how Hope was feeling about all this. Meanwhile, Hope flashed back to warm Douglas recollections and also recalled the further heartbreaking bones she just made.